interview. I know I'm a little late for this one, but I've been trying to record it for a while. But things be coming up and shit. But we're here now, so um also last night um Tim Zoo had another fight. And he beat the shit out of the dude. Easy. The other guy's cornered, threw in the towel. So that's good. Um and hopefully he gets a rematch with Fandora, or is it Fandora? What's his name? Because I get confused with Figaro and Fandora, because they both have F's in their names, and they got Spanish last names. So I think Figaro is actually Italian. Figaro. But yeah, that's good for him. But getting back to Terence Crawford, interview with Henry Cejudo, the guy who apologizes for being Mexican. Henry Cejudo, he's had a couple of these interviews where, I question what type of dude he is, because just the fact that he's always saying, "Oh, guys, they don't like me over there in Mexico, and I'm an American. I was born in America, and I got this and the gold, Olympic gold, this. But you don't have to do all that, bro. You won a gold medal, bro, or several. I don't even know your history like that, but I know that you went to the Olympics for this country. You don't have to be apologizing for looking Mexican, bro. Fuck them if they don't like you. Fuck them, straight up, plain and simple. I'm not gonna be out here apologizing for my brown skin. Fuck it. I don't need to swear loyalty to nobody. Um, but yeah, Henry Cejudo, he's one of these guys who I don't know, bro. I don't know. But anyways, he had an interview with Terence Crawford, and they were talking about Hall of Famers, and Terence Crawford said um, that Spence is not a Hall of Famer, that he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, which in my opinion is ridiculous because, I mean, as you already know, in my personal opinion, right, that's one, if not his best win in his resume. You know, if you look at the names that he has in his resume, I mean, the people that actually matter, he has Kell Brooks, Amir Khan, Gamboa, which is funny, right? And he has Madrimov, he has Spence, and there's one other Russian guy, I forgot his name. But, those are the names under his belt. And you start thinking about it, it's not that many good names. If you compare him to Canelo, who I'm not even going to start to count the names in his. I mean, it's a lot, bro. It's way, way, way more than Terence Crawford. Now, of course, Terence Crawford was in a Cold War with the PBC. But there's always ways around it. Yeah, he was in a contract as well with Bob Arum. And shit like that. But my point is, even compared to someone like Spence, Spence has a slightly better resume than Terence Crawford, in my personal opinion. Of course, people like to play sides when it comes to Terence Crawford and Spence. There's a clear divided line between the PBC side and pretty much everybody else. And the PBC side hates Terence Crawford and anybody who isn't with the PBC, and the Bob Arum side, or just the Terence Crawford side, just doesn't like anybody who dislikes or says anything about Terence Crawford. And for me personally, I think both of these guys deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I think they are both Hall of Famers. in my opinion. And even though their performances or their resumes aren't as good as someone like Canelo's, it's still pretty good. It's still up there. And they're deserving of the Hall of Fame in my personal opinion. And of course, these days, I mean, it's easy to get in the Hall of Fame anyway. So why not let these guys in? I mean, it's for me, it's clear that they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But it's just strange to me that, and kind of stupid too, for Terrence Crawford to minimize his own win over Spence by saying that Spence is not a Hall of Famer and doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion. That's my take on that. Of course, like I said, there's still a clear divide between these two sides. There's still sides of the street in the mentalities of people, even though Turki Al Sheikh and the PBC, I mean, wait. PBC and Bob Arum are now shaking hands and are now going to work together in order to combat the new competition coming from the East, I believe, with Turki Al Sheikh. They're combining forces now. And I think that's the best thing for American boxing, because Turki Al Sheikh indirectly or directly is affecting the market here for the better in America. Competition is good. And this is what happens when there's competition. People start to get their act together and they start to do things in a better way. And I'm glad to see the PBC and Bob Arum working together again. And of course, Terrence Crawford's probably looking at this and he was like, where was this energy when I was with Bob Arum and when I was, participating more in American boxing? And I feel like Terrence Crawford, whether he likes to believe it or not, he still has a little resentment, because people used to call him a coon, used to call him, well, probably shouldn't say that because I'm not African American or anything like that, but people used to call him, names, and I mean, for working for Bob Arum, right? And the PBC side has always been, at least to the minds of certain boxing fans, has always been the African American side or the black side, or the people that are doing it for the quote unquote culture. And the people that weren't with the PBC, they were considered traitors. They were considered, traitors to their own race or whatever. They're not really doing it for the black culture, as they say. And Terrence Crawford always felt some type of way for being disrespected that way. Because at the end of the day, he is a black man, and I'm pretty sure he's proud of being black. And the fact that his own people are telling him that he's not black enough, or he's not, he's working for a white man or whatever. And this is, in my opinion, this is the same reason why when Terrence Crawford left Bob Arum, he accused him of being racist, because in a way he was kind of telling his people, see, I don't like him that much. See, I'm telling him he's racist. So, and the lawsuit didn't go anywhere, because it's hard to prove. And pretty much when people do stuff like that, they're actually trying to win the court of public opinion. They're not trying to actually win anything in court. They're doing it for the clout. They're doing it for to kind of like as a wink to the black community. Hey, I'm not down with this, white guy or whatever. Is it racist? Yes, but I mean, it's what it takes sometimes is for you to do some fake shit for your people to get back on your side, which is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, if my people were to say I'm not Mexican enough or whatever, I'd say fuck them. If the same thing goes with Americans. If Americans think I'm not American, I'm fuck them too, straight up. I could care less, But at the same time, nobody's really worried about me. I'm not that famous or anything, so I don't know what I would do if I was famous. But the other thing I was gonna say was the other question that they asked them, and they said, "Would you fight David Benavidez, the Mexican Monster?" Right, and they said at that point, he said, Terrence Crawford answered the question, and he said, "Well, at that point, I might as well go up to heavyweight," right, and pretty much saying that he's too big. And it kind of validates my point that I've had in many of my videos that I say time and time again that Canelo Alvarez is pretty much the only boxer that's punching up, and he's still hated. You know, imagine if Canelo would say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna fight Benavidez, he's too big," which he has said before, but he gets trashed for it, and he gets it's not okay for him to duck a fight like that, but it's definitely okay for Terrence Crawford to duck a fight like that. You know, it's definitely okay for him to do that somehow, and not okay for Canelo to do it. And that just goes to show you, like, these guys, by the way, Terrence Crawford and Canelo, they're pretty much the same size. Okay, I want you to understand that y'all think that Terrence is smaller. He's not that small, much smaller than Canelo. And when you see them next to each other, you're going to realize that when the fight happens in the future, probably next year or maybe at the end of this year. I'm not sure when exactly it's going to happen. But when it does happen, you guys will realize that. That they're not that far apart from each other. And one of these guys in Canelo Alvarez has been fighting giants, have been fighting people that are way bigger than him. And another one in Terrence Crawford has been fighting guys the same size or smaller. Madrimov wasn't bigger by that much than Terrence Crawford. You know, he was the same size. I mean, in some angles, he even looks smaller than Terrence Crawford. You know, so Terrence Crawford is a very smart guy, and he knows how to pick his opponents. You know, and he's had help along the way. You know, there's people that get help. There's people that they get help from the system. There's people that don't get help from the system. You know, and people that can get help and people that cannot get help, even if the system wants to help them, they just can't because they have too many enemies because of the nature of who they are, you know. I feel like Terrence Crawford is one of these guys that he's just quiet enough to where he could get enough help from the system. Like, for example, Amir Khan. Okay, he hit him in the balls and he wins the fight. No disqualification, or I mean, I'm trying to figure out how you win a fight by hitting somebody else in the balls, bro. Like how does that even happen? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know, but like Kell Brooks, one-eyed fighter. Because a lot of people like to say, "Oh, Spence beat up Kell Brooks and Kell Brooks came off a loss," but the same shit happened with Terrence Crawford. It's the same thing, because they do like to say, "Oh, Spence was a diva and the Charlo brothers were divas and this, that, and the other." But Terrence Crawford is the same thing, in my opinion. He's the same thing. All of these guys, all of these American fighters are divas. All right, all of them. I mean, look at Devin Haney. The freaking he went crazy when he lost the fight. They all act like divas, all of them, every single one of them. So in my opinion, there's very little difference between Terrence and Spence as far as the diva quote goes. Like people say, one of them is a diva, the other one, they're both divas. They both had things handed to them. Yeah, they worked hard, of course, but they had help from the system. And in other news, Claressa Shields, another product of American boxing, she recently had an interview, and they said that who was she rooting for? She said, hopefully Devin Haney wins, and knocks out Ryan Garcia or whatever. And it got me thinking about the hypocrisy of boxing, because they asked her, why are you rooting for Devin Haney? She was like, oh, and of course she's trying to make it about righteousness like all racist people do. But anyways, and he said, oh, it's because, Ryan Garcia is a drug cheat. And people are saying that it was a hook, it had nothing to do with steroids. And she said it was a steroids hook, which is the most ignorant shit I've ever heard in my life. But let me just tell you guys why I think this is stupid, and I think this is hypocritical. And I think that this got me to thinking that steroids should be allowed in boxing. The reason they should be allowed in boxing is because they already are allowed in boxing. The only reason these federations or what do you call them? These WBC, I mean not WBC, WADA, VADA, and YADA, or whatever you call them. All of these, testing labs or whatever. The only reason they exist is for political reasons. The only reason they exist is for virtue signaling. The only reason they exist is to attack certain people and defend certain people. That's why they exist. They're not here to make this sport more pure. They're here to make it more complicated. They're here to make it even more corrupt than it already is. That's what they're here for. They're just another tool to attack the people that they hate and defend the people that they love, or they want, the people that they strategically or politically want them to win. Straight and simple. That's what it is. So, in my opinion, these associations that they claim to be, about a clean sport, they're not. And I mean, you could see it time and time again. Look at Mosley. Look at Roy Jones Jr. got caught. Floyd Mayweather got caught with illegal IVs. Nobody said shit about Floyd Mayweather. You know why people use illegal IVs? To cycle up some shit from their system. That's why. That's why they use it. Yeah, because they're using and they want to cycle it out, and they use illegal IVs. That's why they use that. But they let Floyd Mayweather do it. They let Floyd Mayweather do that, and they let him use Silacan in all of his fights, which is illegal in most other states other than Las Vegas. Think about that. Think about all of the shit that I'm telling you, and you realize that certain people are allowed to cheat, and it's not just by the sanctioning bodies, but by the people. The people don't complain that much when it comes to Floyd Mayweather. When it comes to Mosley, he should have gotten a lot of his fights reverted, especially the ones with Oscar De La Hoya, and he didn't get them reversed. In fact, he was claimed to be the hero when he beat up another drug cheat in Margarito. But Margarito was Mexican, so they're gonna... I mean, come on, look at that shit. I mean, it's right there in front of you. You could see it. All right? I mean, it's right there. I don't have to explain to you. Look, like, for example, that one time they caught Beterbiev, and they didn't catch him with anything. They just said Beterbiev has an abnormal amount of testosterone in his system. That's what they said, right? But my thing is, why don't you mention that Floyd Mayweather had an abnormal amount of testosterone in his system? Why don't you mention that probably Carissa Shields has an abnormal amount of testosterone in her system? Why don't you mention that more than likely Terrence Crawford and Devin Haney have an abnormal amount of testosterone in their system? Why don't you mention that? You know why they don't mention it? Because these people I just mentioned are protected by these systems that have been in place to politically protect certain people and attack others. Plain and simple. It's right there. It's right in front of you. You could see it. I mean, it's If you have a logical mind and you have common sense, these things are easy to see. You know, they're not hard to see. They're right in front of you. But anyways, I guess go do your own research, as they say. What is it? TikTok? Is that what you guys use these days?